Hello, guys and gals. Me, Mutahar. I've been up pretty much all night. The sun is up, and I've been enamored with the most insane story that I think I've seen. So, ladies and gentlemen, about a week ago, on September 9th, there was a body that was found inside a Tesla. Now, this body was found in a Hollywood tow in Los Angeles, and of course, according to the medical examiner, the victim was a female woman who was wearing a tube top, black leggings, yellow metal chain bracelet, stud earrings, and weighed approximately 71 pounds. And the only reason it was reported was because in this impound lot, there was a foul odor coming from a vehicle, which is what the cops had said. Now, this belonged to a musician called D4vd. We're going to call it David because that's what it's stylized to be. Now, David at the time was in an actual tour, still is doing a tour. So this became a pretty huge story out of nowhere, okay? It became a pretty big thing that I put onto my radar, and I've been researching it a little bit every single day until, of course, last night when things really kind of ramped up. So you can see the Tesla, I believe, is being removed over here, and I don't know if it's like a whatever model it is, but the thing that I always have to kind of question is, obviously, since it's a Tesla with like 8 cameras everywhere, even cabin cameras or something, maybe Tesla could probably pull something out on a police warrant. Like, I know they have the ability to do so, and maybe help the cops out there. But the reason why the story kind of blew up was the body was actually identified as an individual known as Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Now, the reason why this also is wild is because this girl was actually missing for about 2 years. So a missing persons poster was sort of brought up here, and you can see that they were last seen, I believe Americans work month, day, year, so that would be April 5th, 2024, last seen in Lake Elsinore, current age 13. And of course, they even provided a date of birth, and they even showed all of this information. So this person was found hacked up inside this Tesla. And this is where the internet investigation got even wilder. Now, even at the time, the body was so decomposed that identifying ethnicity and I believe even age was difficult for the coroner. And of course, up until now, they found portions of the body, not even the entire body from what I understand. In fact, I believe the body was even in the front of the Tesla, which there's not a lot of space. So you really have to put, I guess, some pieces in. But there was enough to identify a tattoo on her right index finger, according to the LAPD sources, where the words "shh" was written on. And I want you to remember this tattoo because it makes an appearance later on. So what was a 15-year-old girl doing in the trunk of a 20-year-old something odd musician, right, who's currently still on tour? So immediately in my head, I was like thinking, okay, there's got to be some logical explanation. Because David was working with law enforcement, and as far as I know, as of me recording this video, he has not actually been arrested. So there's probably a couple reasons. I mean, the most likely reason for me is that, he's cooperating, the cops are working with him, whatever information he's providing is definitely assisting. The other thing could be that maybe this vehicle was sold to like a friend or some other person without it being like changed over at the DMV. I don't even know if that's entirely possible in the United States, but the car was actually registered in his name. So he's got to have some pretty airtight explanations for explaining to law enforcement agencies, lawyers, why there is an actual dead person in his car, a car registered under his name. So you can actually see that this was the lot that it was found in on Mansfield Avenue. And the thing about it is like, even if this is like, so a murder, right? Like a body is found. What's super odd about it is like, if you look closely into the map over here, it's not in a place that is remote. So let's assume this body was dead. It was dead in a pretty public area for a while. It was just sitting here until somebody picked up the smell of a decomposing body and went after it. Now, inside that impound lot, according to the actual, authorities, it was just sitting there for 2 days after being found abandoned on a Hollywood street. So it wasn't sitting, in a remote area, right? It was just towed up by, it was towed up by the city. And of course, obviously, after a while, sitting inside the Californian summer heat, which is pretty bad right now, you can actually, of course, pick up a whiff. And of course, that's how this was discovered. And this is where this whole sort of story started. Now, one of the things that I also wanted to bring up was, according to the LAPD, one of the reasons that, maybe I guess he wasn't arrested as of now is because multiple people had access to this vehicle, and maybe the information he has provided to the LAPD, confidentially, may be pointing fingers towards someone else. Again, I'm just trying to understand why this person isn't arrested. I would imagine this would put him at the top of the prime suspect list, but the fact that the LAPD isn't really even talking about that, or, at least hinting that he is prime suspect number one, is a bit concerning to me. Now, to go back to David, one of the important things about David's story is, he's really got to have a really good explanation as to why a body is found in his trunk. So people on the internet started gathering all this evidence around, right? People had started digging out, Discord messages where apparently there was messages where people were speculating on who he was dating. And names like Celeste started dropping. Now, again, if you remember, Celeste is the name of the girl in that missing persons poster. And again, more Discord messages, again, start leaking out. And again, these are not verified by me. These are just screenshots. So, David's like, I'm in a song crisis right now. And of course, in August 16, 2024, this user drop the one with the missing girl, Celeste Riva Hernandez. Now, assuming this Discord message is true, and I'm saying assuming because I can't confirm it since it seems like the Discord is getting cleared or a lot of stuff is being deleted, that name matching entirely is enough. It goes far beyond just a simple coincidence to me. There is a clear connection, and provided the FBI or, the LAPD in this case can 100% verify this message, I think it is well pointing towards a smoking gun. So David, Celeste is in here? Hi, David Bark. So yeah, it seems like this girl existed in these Discord servers. So this connection started becoming more solidified when there were more images that came out. Now, this girl was actually connected to this guy. So you can see that David was apparently over here. And then you can see that this was Celeste. So this girl, mind you, is a minor at the time. Now, David, who has been dropped by some of his sponsors, like Hollister, for instance, who used to have him on his site prominently when they were doing this drop in collaboration, that got dropped and it was replaced with another model, okay? Because obviously a dead body in your trunk is probably going to freak anybody out. Now, David is still actually performing, and I think I can still just buy tickets to go see him at the Greek Theater. Literally this weekend. It's actually insane. And as we record this, the concerts appear to start getting canceled because obviously this situation has blown up. It's not just an elephant in the room, it's an elephant that the entire community can stare at from 100 miles away. And again, this goes back to the investigators. I think a lot of the pressure has been added once people who started looking through his VODs and former content have really come to see that maybe there was more of a connection to him and this now identified girl than we thought before. And some of those investigators are the most popular streamers, and I want to give flowers to XQC, for instance, who has actually done sort of his assessment, taken some of David's music releases in relation to, I guess, Celeste to an extent, and has combined these dates. So September 7th, 2000, and again, depending on whatever year, XQC's been kind of aligning dates, Da Vinci Code style in this situation. And if you look at some of these music tracks, obviously people are looking at even the lyrics. I'm scared. It feels like you don't care. Enlighten me, my dear. Why am I still here? In the back of my mind, you died. And I didn't even cry. No, not a single tear. And I'm sick of waiting patiently for someone that won't even arrive. In the back of my mind, I killed you, and I didn't even regret it. Obviously, with all of these things going on, people are hyper-scrutinizing every single lyric that this man has posted. And they've even went as far as to going to some of his oldest tracks and almost building sort of a narrative just with the titling of some of these musical tracks too. This guy's been around for, I want to say 3 to 4 years. And, for very recently, up until now, his career started blowing up. I think he did a track with 21 Savage. He was involved in Call of Duty. So pretty big collaborations for somebody so early in his career. But obviously, this might just take a hit for him after people start looking. Now, remember, he's already appeared to have gotten photos with this girl. He's already appeared to have some connection with the Celeste person, who, again, was missing when she was 13, mind you, and unfortunately appears to have passed away at the age of 15. So, regardless of how you want to look at it, right, if this relationship is confirmed, you know, the guy appears to at least be a child predator, right? At least if these ages line up, right? I'm not going to say this definitively because, again, these are all allegations and not statements of fact. Now, the internet being the internet also dug through VODs and found a clip of what appears to be Celeste and David sitting together streaming. So listen to this.
Oh, yo, wait.
Oh, look it. Answer that one. That's so mean if you don't answer
Which
that.
one? What's good, David? Big fan, big spot me. Oh, thank you, Mitochondria. Appreciate you.
I gotta stop with him if you even.
We
need to delete this.
Maz, can we delete all VODs? And then as soon as the stream ends, delete the stream too?
Yeah, I don't know what he's on about, deleting the streams, but one thing that just baffles me is obviously, you know, they're streaming together, and I'm wondering even at the time were people kind of looking at and saying, why is this adult streaming with what is clearly a child? You know, it's not even like, oh, this girl looks older for her age. No, it literally does look like a child in comparison to this guy. And it is just shocking that it's occurred. And of course, when you add the whole idea of like, hey, mods, can you just delete everything? It's just all of this added up together. These are a set of coincidences. And when you have way too many of them, there's a problem. But let's go even further. So some of the Redditors, like on Hip Hop Heads, actually at the time when this body was discovered and David's name was attached to the articles because that's what the vehicle is registered under, started to come out and make posts like this. So American Strawberry comes in and goes, and again, this is just a screenshot. I have not verified it entirely. This guy is a weirdo. A close friend's little sister from the IE ran away last year, and this is who she was with. We think her sister was pimping her out. She was in 7th grade at the time LAPD swept this place in the hills, and I'm terrified that's who's in the car. Nobody has heard from her in months. I won't release names, as she's still a minor, but she was from Lake Elsinore. Now, for anybody that doesn't remember, Hernandez's missing poster says that she was last seen in Lake Elsinore. So at the time, you know, people were like, I hope it's not the case. And people were like, I strongly doubt this is true. He has a very public social media presence, and there's no one underage on his road crew. I have only heard good things about David from tour and venue staff. Don't post stuff like this with all the speculation going around. You're going to feed witch hunts like that. It isn't speculation, it literally happened. I don't really care if you've heard nice things about him. That has no impact on my personal negative experience. Now, again, at the time, you might be wondering, okay, well, where's the proof? And of course, down the road, when bodies start getting identified and, you know, you start looking up these wanted posters, I'm not going to say everything's definitive, but things aren't looking that good for this guy. Okay, he's got to have a pretty rock solid defense. So on her body, apparently, was also tattoos, written on her finger or something. And even for him, people started looking closely at his tattoos. And he also appeared to have matching tattoos with this minor. So again, because this story has a lot of internet investigations to it, sometimes the evidence that comes up cannot be entirely verified. So for instance, messages with the victims over here where they talk about being in a relationship with this David fella, I can't 100% verify. But like again, if this is 100% true, remember the girl is a minor. This guy is well into the adult side of things, right? Like this guy is well past being a minor, which would make this whole relationship completely fucking wrong. Now, I feel really bad for this girl because ultimately, obviously, at the end of the day, she's lost her life. She's a baby. That's what she was. She was what, like 15? And you know, one thing that kind of just burns me a little bit is like, I obviously I'm assuming that her parents and like, you know, the family was really looking for her. But from what I understand, she did run away. She went away. She went missing, and she went with this guy apparently, allegedly. And obviously, she has now just been ceased to exist. She is found dead inside a Tesla in Hollywood. Now, people started looking at David's messages as well, too, and some things that I could verify, like this post, for instance, which you can still access if I reload it right here. You can see that, you know, David was apparently saying, when I was writing this, I got a notie from you. As you were talking about wanting to be with your mom and your sister again, take me where I belong. But our circumstances won't allow us to be in our ideal situations. We got to push through it, bro. Of course, you've got the fingers crossed heart emoji. Now, this is May 10th, 2022, and it's difficult because I can't confirm who this post was made to. But it does sound just odd. Okay, again, this is somebody that probably blew up way too quickly. And now that he's got an entire career, David's been exceptionally quiet. Now, David has done the smart thing in the social media circuit. He has stayed completely fucking quiet. I think the last post that he made before any of the stuff came to light, a dead body was found inside a car registered to him, was the numbers 6 and 7. And of course, it's an elephant that I'm sure that he's not willing to talk about. I'm sure that David probably has lawyers granted to him through his music label, or just he's went out and got lawyers, because talking anything about the situation, especially when a whole bunch of this information that we've looked at has come up, is just really detrimental. It's like you should not be opening your mouth. Now, what's also really wild about this, too, is that there is also another Celeste in this story as well provided. So, according to this situation, according to streams that were pulled from IRL streams from other streamers, you can see that there is a Celeste Herrera, for instance, right, who also got brought into the story. So, again, people have been kind of theory crafting about this. People have been kind of trying to identify what things can be here. But to me, all right, I'm just going to say it like it is. Is everybody innocent until proven guilty? Absolutely. I'm not going to say that David is a murderer or anything like that. Now, after having a bit of time to sleep on it a little bit, I actually did talk to Jen about this, my partner, and she had come up with an interesting theory, a little bit of a motive, if you will, about this. Now, mind you, these are two young individuals, and I imagine for a man that has a career entirely in front of him with tons on the line, in relationships, people do get pregnant, right? That tends to happen, whether it be planned or, at least when it comes to their age, it's usually unplanned. Now, again, if this person is a murderer, right, assuming that she's even pregnant, there's the motive that maybe getting rid of, a person that probably wants to keep the child. So, because remember, eventually this relationship with such a massive age gap, especially an age gap where you're bleeding an adult and a minor together, which is very illegal, is eventually going to come out. This is eventually going to be a thing that will undo your career. So, before your career, I guess, even really begins, and, you want to see it go on, why not just get rid of the problem ahead of time? Obviously, this is just me assuming. This is me assuming a motive, really, based on information that I'm just kind of putting together in my head. But yeah, that to me screams like the most possible motive. Now, I think ultimately what is conflicting with that motive is how this body was discovered, right? I mean, to give you an idea, if somebody really wanted to kill someone, I think no matter how dumb you are, you can't be dumb enough, maybe you can, to leave it in a vehicle registered to your name and eventually have it out in the open to the point where it can get towed away to a yard. Maybe, I guess, the ultimate point was to have it so confusing that even the LAPD would be trying to, put things together. Everything that I've researched throughout the whole night and looking at, again, just every single person bringing up things, circumstantial evidence is circumstantial. But when you've got one circumstance piled on with another circumstance, piled on with another circumstance, piled on with 4 other circumstances, there's a good chance, at least in my opinion, that innocence might not be entirely in his cards. Now, when I also talk about, again, the evidence that's coming out, be very cautious and, again, confirm everything. Because even that post that I showed you earlier with his official X account where he talked about, this whole, girl, sending you back to your mom and sister, this, again, was post deleted by a post author, so nobody really knows what this is. People are combing through his entire internet history. And obviously, I can imagine, look, if you're truly guilty of something, there's probably stuff that you might panic delete. And the thing is, look, no matter what, panic deleting will never get you out of it. If this becomes a criminal matter, which it already is, the LAPD is looking at this as a homicide. And I have no doubt that David, even if he's cooperating, is obviously a suspect. And that's why I think, before this weekend comes by, which is literally a couple days away, he might not actually be able to perform. If the LAPD finds some real credible evidence that there was a relationship, with this girl that was murdered in his vehicle behind the scenes, he immediately jumps to the top of that suspect list because nobody else really is looking like the prime suspect other than this guy. But ultimately, this is one of the wildest stories that I've seen in regards to, and again, I'm not a hip hop head. This is not something here. I'm purely looking at this from a true crime perspective, right? A week ago, I saw a article that literally in Los Angeles, there was a dead body found in Hollywood inside a Tesla. And I was wondering, man, maybe they could pull footage off of the Tesla, right? Through a court order, through criminal checks. But maybe that information isn't even available. But it immediately made me wonder, it's like, why would this body be found, abandoned in Hollywood? And in amongst all of this, there was apparently a leaked song called, you guessed it, Celeste, that apparently was recorded back in December 2023. So again, you had verses like, "Oh Celeste, the girl with my name tattooed on her chest, smell her on my clothes like cigarettes. I hear her voice each time I take a breath. I'm obsessed. Oh Celeste." Yeah, again, if this is completely validated and true, this is, again, just another bit, it's another breadcrumb in this trail that, frankly, the LAPD should be on top of. And again, this is why this entire case is so confusing. Now, ultimately, at the end, this is about as much information I think anybody has really been able to piece together regarding this story. Now, look, at the end, I always will say innocent until proven guilty, right? That's just the standard for law. But that being said, on a personal basis, just looking at the videos and photographs with him and this alleged minor, well, not alleged, this girl was a minor the whole time, but looking at the photos and videos of them allegedly together, I mean, this whole relationship dynamic doesn't make any sense. It doesn't legally make any sense. But of course, if it would be one thing, when this body wasn't identified, if it was going to be completely different. But seeing as how they obviously appear to have had this relationship beforehand, or how they were connected, yeah, I have no doubt that this guy should probably be at the top of the suspect list. Now look, at the end, I'm still going to look at this story, depending on how it goes. Maybe this guy could find a way to completely exonerate himself of all these charges. But the way that the story is looking, it almost feels like the internet has pieced together this entire mystery faster than the cops have. I think the internet has made enough of a credible piece of evidence regarding this to at least open up a serious investigation. Because not only is this gruesome, but it just makes you constantly ask questions. That said, ladies and gentlemen, whatever the outcome of David is going to be, we will see. But this is by far one of the most mysterious murders that I've seen, one of the most mysterious true crime pieces that I've seen just this year. It's an insane mystery, and that's where we'll leave it at. So if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Just like if you dislike it, I am out.